Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over the Test 3 review questions and I will explain how to do all of them. So just a few notes here at the top. This is going to be a timed paper and pencil test, no computers during class time, but in CSCI-181 108. So that is the same classroom that we had it in last time, not our usual classroom. Don't forget to prepare your cheat sheet. This is a 3" by 5" index card, double-sided. You can write whatever you want on both sides, only by hand. So for example, Python syntax, example code, answers to the review questions, inspirational quotes, a sketch of your cat, anything you want. So in terms of what is going to be on the test, there will be 1 to 2 questions from each of the parts that are listed here from 1 through 8. So these parts are about reading code and telling me basically that you understood what the code did when Python executes it. And then the last part is part 9. There's going to be 3 to 4 questions from that part that will ask you to write code. So those will probably be the more challenging questions that you'll want to study a bit harder. So don't use the fact that they're at the end of the review questions to not study them. That you should study first, actually. All right, so part 1, string methods. So for all of these, I'm just going to ask you what will print out. I'm not going to ask you to do code tracing where you tell me what every value of the variables was like during a loop. So I'll just ask you to print out, or to tell me what will print from print commands. Okay, so string methods. Here we start with a string. This is from an Emily Dickinson poem. Hope, in all uppercase, is the thing with feathers. So the first print command here, print s.upper. This is just going to convert s into an uppercase version. So every single letter here will be an uppercase. So it'll look like this. Hope is the thing with feathers. Okay. The opposite is going to happen for s.lower. That is just going to convert the entire string into lowercase. This. S.find e. So this is going to find the first place, searching from the left side of the string, the first index of the lowercase character e. So the first one that appears is the e in the THE. So that is starting with capital H, that's index 0, index 1, index 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is index 10. So the thing that is going to print out is 10. Now, on the other hand, if you use find to try to find something that's not in the string, it will always return -1. Oops. -1 just is the value that it returns when that character or that string was not in the string. The last one, replace. So this is going to go through the string and it's going to replace every place where there was a lowercase I with a lowercase o. And then it will print that out. So this will be hope, Oz, the thong with wath, feathers, like this. And we can go ahead and print out these and just see that it is actually correct. Okay. All right, so that is the first part. Second part, string methods with loops. So now we're going to be doing some loops. These are a lot more complicated. So this is the next line of the poem. Oh, well, the next 2 lines actually. That perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words. And here I've just included a whole bunch of spaces in between some of the words. All right. So that is what S is. Now T starts off here as an empty string. So T has nothing in it. This loop here is going through each character in S 1 by 1. So the char variable here, first char will be capital T, then char will be H, then char will be A, and so on. And then we're going to check each character to see if it's alphabetical. So char.isAlpha will return true if the character is a letter in the alphabet, and it will return false if the character is not a letter in the alphabet. So all of the letters here, T, H, A, T, etc., those will all be true for isAlpha, but the spaces will return false, the comma will return false, the comma over here will return false. So what's going to happen if the character is alphabetical, then we add that character to the end of the T string. So basically, we're only adding the alphabetical characters to the end of the T string. So what we're going to get when we get done here with this loop is we're only going to have the letters. So there's not going to be any spaces, and there's not going to be any commas or any other punctuation. So it'll be like this. That's what's going to print out. Okay, let's look at the next one. So again, we're starting with an empty string t. This is setting up the accumulator pattern. This was the accumulator pattern that we were looking at in the last example. So we're doing the accumulator pattern again, and it's very similar to the last one, but we've added an extra thing to check here. So now we're checking that the character is alphabetical, and we're also checking that the character is equal to its own uppercase version. Okay, so we're checking that the current character that's being looked at in the loop is equal to the uppercase version of itself. So what this is going to do is this part is going to be true only if the letter was already capitalized. So like capital T, for example, if we have capital T for care, then capital T dot upper will be the same thing. So this will be true. But for example, for lowercase h, if we have lowercase h for care, then on the right side here, this will become uppercase h, and those two are not equal to each other. All right, and then, so if we do find a character is alphabetical and it is uppercase, then we add that character to the end of the T string. And then when we get done, we print out the T string. So the only things that are going to be in the T string are the uppercase letters, which is T and A, and that's it. This T right here and this A over here. All right, the next one again is accumulator pattern, but this time we're not accumulating a string, we're accumulating, it looks like a counter or a sum. So the number n starts at 0. Once again, we're going through every character in that string S up at the top. And now we're checking if the lowercase version of the character is in the string A, E, I, O, U. So if we find that the lowercase version of the character is A, E, I, O, or U, then we are adding 1 to the number n. Okay, so what's going to happen? The first time the loop runs, char is going to be capital T. So the lowercase version of capital T is not in the string A, E, I, O, U. So n, this code right here, will not be executed. N will stay at 0. Then we come to the H. So when the char is H, the lowercase version of H is not in A, E, I, O, U. So n will stay at 0. Then we get to the A here. Now the lowercase version of A is in A, E, I, O, U. So we're going to go ahead and add 1 to n. So n becomes 1. So what you can see here is that every time we come to A, E, I, O, or U, including capitalized ones because they will be looking at the lowercase version, we're going to add 1 to n. So what n is it's basically the count of how many vowels there are in this string S. So we're going to get 1 from this vowel, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, I believe. So this is 17, the number of vowels. Okay, just maybe I'll make a couple of notes here too. This was the capitalized uppercase, maybe it's the better way to say uppercase, letters only, alphabetical letters only. And then this was alphabetical characters only. Okay, and then so for the last loop here, this one is a while loop, so it's a little bit different than the others. So while this right here is 2 spaces, it's a little bit hard to tell unless you highlight it, but it is 2 spaces. So while 2 spaces are in the string S, we replace S with S dot replace, and then the first thing here is what's being replaced, and the second thing is what we're replacing it with. So we're taking S, and we're replacing 2 spaces with 1 space. So Python is going to go through here, and everywhere it finds 2 spaces, it's going to replace them with 1 space. Okay, but then there's a whole bunch of places where that's the case, right? So like there's 6 spaces here. So each pair, this one will get replaced with 1 space, 1 space, 1 space, but you'll still have 3 spaces once that's done. So then like you have to come back and do it again, replace every pair of spaces with 1 space. So it takes a while to actually get down to getting rid of all those extra spaces. But eventually, if you keep doing that, so first we have 6 spaces here, then there will be 3, then 2 of them will get replaced by 1, so you'll have 2. Then those 2 will get replaced by 1, so you'll have 1. All these extra spaces will go away, and we'll just have 1 space in all those places. So this will stop when there are no longer any double spaces in the string. And then we do have to do s equals in order to save that new string with that replacement finished as the new version of s. So what gets printed out here is the string with no double spaces, no multiple spaces, just single spaces only. Single spaces only. So in other words, this is going to be, right, I already forgot what the string says, that perches in the soul and sings a tune without them. That perches in the soul and sings a tune without words. Oops. Okay. All right, so that is that part. Part 3, opening and reading files and using .split. So here you can actually download the file that I was giving you to practice with. So I'm going to go ahead. I think I already have it in my downloads folder, so I'm going to upload the file here to practice with. Dates. Okay. Oh, I guess we forgot to run the last code snippet. Actually, let's go back and do that and make sure we did this all correctly. Okay, so yep, no spaces, TA 17, and then all the multiple spaces are replaced with just 1 space. Okay, so now we're going to use this dates file. The contents of the dates file is just simply these 5 dates here, each on their own line. And we have to say what's going to print out here. So the first 3 lines here are just opening the file. Lines is going to save a list of all the lines in the file. So that list will consist of 1 string per line in the file. Each line in the file becomes a single string in that list called lines. And then we close the file so that someone else can use it if they need to. Okay, so first we are going through each line in the list of lines, and we're printing out a slice from that line. So this slice starts at the beginning of the line, and it stops before the index 2 character. So if we look at each line up here, first line is going to be this line, then line is going to be this line, then line is going to be this line. So the loop goes through each of those lines. And then the slice from the line starts at the beginning of the string, and it stops right before character 2. So index 2 is, this is 0, 1, 2. So we're stopping before 2. So we're just taking the first 2 characters. So the 0 index and the 1 index characters. That's what the slice is going to give us back. So first we're going to get 29, and then for the next line we're going to get 06, and the next line 21, and then 04, and then 30. Okay, so what's going to print out here is going to be first 29, and then I already forgot what it was, 06, and then 21, and then 04, and then 30. Okay. The next one, 4 line inlines. So here we're actually using the split command on each line. So remember, each line is going to be one of these dates from the file. And we're doing dot split on that, and we are splitting at the hyphens. So when we do dot split at the hyphens, we're going to get a list of these 3 strings that are between the hyphens. And the list is going to be saved as the variable L. Okay, so first L is going to be a list with the string 29, and then the string July, and then the string 1984. So it'll be a 3-entry list. And then on the next pass of the loop, we'll get L will be the list with 06, Feb, 1980. Okay, and so what are we actually printing out is we're printing out the index 1 entry from each of those lists L. So each list L is going to be a 3-entry list corresponding to these 3 things. So this is index 0, index 1, index 2. So index 1 is going to be the name of the month. And then we're doing this for every line in the file. So all of those month names are going to get printed out. Okay, so we're going to print July, or Jewel rather, Feb, Nov. And they're all going to come out on their own line because it's a loop. And then deaths and Aug. All right. Lastly, or sorry, the second to last one. So for each line, this is just checking if the string 19 is in the line. And so it's printing out the result of that check. So this is going to be either true or false. So for the first line, is 19 in there? Yes, it's right here. So that one will be true. Okay, so for the first line, it's going to print true. For the next line, is 19 in here? Yes, it is. It's right here. So that is also going to print true. For the third one, is 19 in here? It's not. So that one is going to print false. Okay, and then you just keep going through one by one. So this one will be true, and then the last one will be false. Okay. All right, and then the very last one here, for line inlines, if -20 or -20 is in the line, then we print the whole line. Okay, so we're checking if -20 is in the line. If it is, we're printing the line. So not every line is going to get printed out, only the ones that have -20. So the ones that will be printed will be this one that has 20 in it, -20, and this one that has -20. The purpose of having the -20 is basically so you wouldn't get triggered by having a 20 over here. So this is probably someone who wants to only print out the dates that were in the 2000s. All right. So the only ones that are going to print are going to be 21 November 2017 and 30 August 2003. Okay. So the next part, list indexing, slicing, and concatenating. All right. So there's no loops here. It's a little bit easier. So we have two lists, each having 4 entries, L and M. So first, we're just retrieving the 2 index entry from L. So the first entry in L is index 0, index 1, and then index 2. So this is going to print var. The next one, we're doing a slice. So we're going to get several entries from the list. So we get the first entry will be the index 1 entry, and then we're going to stop right before index 3. So this is entry 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to start with the 1 index, and we're stop right before the 3 index. So we're going to get these 2 entries right there. And then the important thing to realize is that a slice from a list is another list. So this is going to give us back a list with those 2 entries in it. And so when it prints out, it looks just like this. It has the square brackets. It has the apostrophes. Okay, the next one is, this is list concatenation. If I add 2 lists together, they just get glued together end to end. So we're going to have this list, and we're going to have this list, and they're going to become one list with all of those entries. So like this. Okay, so the first part will be all the entries from L, and then all the entries from M, and then that is going to come out as a list, so it'll have the square brackets when it prints. Oh, we've been forgetting to check these by actually printing them, right? So we could actually go back and print these, make sure they were correct. Yeah. And then, oh, actually there is one here that was a little bit different than what you might have thought. So here, 2 dates I mentioned printed out, but there's an extra space between them. So the reason for this is actually because what's actually in the list of lines that you read in, when you read in the lines from the file, each line in the file has a new line character at the end of it. You know, it's that \n character, except for the very last line doesn't have that. So when you look at the list of the lines, these 4 lines actually have a new line character at the end. So that's why you get an extra like little space when you print it out between lines like this. It's not a big deal. I don't think I would take off for that since I forgot about it myself. But anyway, okay, so back to this example. The very last one, so this is going to take a slice starting from the beginning of L. So if there's no entry before the colon, it starts at the beginning. And then it's going to stop right before index 2. So index 2 is this one. So this is going to give us Jan and Feb. Okay, so those are going to be the first 2 entries. And then from M, we're also taking the first 2 entries. Okay, and then the plus is concatenating those two slices together. So this is gluing the two results together into one list. All right, let's run this one and see if we're right. Yep. Okay. So part 5, changing, inserting, and deleting list entries. So here we have the same two lists from the last section. So first we're going to append June to list L. So this is adding June as a new entry at the end of L. So it's important that you understand like L becomes, like what L looks like after you've done this. I'm asking you what will print out to make sure you know what happens to L. So L is going to be the same as before, but now it just has a new entry, June, added at the end, like that. Okay. This is actually very similar. The next one, m equals m plus bracket 30. So what's happening here is bracket 30, it's not an index. This is actually a very short list. This is a list with one entry in it, 30, and that's all that's in the list. So what's happening here is we're doing list concatenation. We're gluing together the list M and this very short list with only 30 in it. Okay, so what we're getting is the list M, and then the list with just 30 in it is added to the end. Okay, so that is what we have now. The next one we're doing, and that has been saved as the new value for M. So M has now become this 5-entry list of numbers. The next one we're doing L.insert. So insert is going to insert a new entry at index 4, and the new entry will be May. And so when it inserts the new entry, it moves all the other entries that were starting at index 4 and to the right. It moves all of those over by 1 to make space. Okay, so currently L is this, which we printed out before. And what's going to happen is, so this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the 4 index entry right now. We're going to put May in as the new index 4 entry. Okay, so May is going to be in there, and then everything else just gets moved over. So the old index 4 entry gets moved to the right and becomes the index 5. Okay, so now I have the months in the correct order: Jan, Feb, Mar, April, May, June. All right, and then for our M list, which is currently this, we are now changing index 4 to be 31. So this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 index entry is now 31. All right, so that's updated. Next one, del L index -1. So here, let's see, what is L currently? L is this one. Okay, so what are we doing to L? We are deleting the last entry. So index -1 is the last entry in the list, and we're deleting that one, so it's just, boop, it's just gone. Okay, next one. So there's actually 2 print commands here. So what's going to happen is pop is a command that deletes something from the list, but you can also print out the result of popping. So it's like you delete that thing, but then you can like momentarily use it at the same time that you're deleting it. That's kind of weird, but anyway. So what's going to print out here is going to be the entry of M that has index 2. So here's the current version of M, and index 2 is 0, 1, 2, so that's 31. So that entry at index 2 is going to get printed, and it is also being deleted. So on the very next line, M no longer has that entry. That 31 at index 2 is gone. Okay. It's kind of like how, you know, if you're like popping popcorn, like things pop up and you use them and then they're not in the popcorn popper anymore. I guess is the idea. All right, and then the last one, L.remove mar. So this is the current version of L right here, and it is just going to literally remove search. So this entry will be gone. All right, and then we can print these out just to make sure that we got all the right answers. So let's see. Well, there's so many. So Jan, Feb, Mar, April, June, yep. 31, 28, 31, 30, 30, yep. Jan, Feb, Mar, April, May, June, yep. 31, 28, 31, 30, 31. Jan, Feb, Mar, April, May, yep. 31, 28, 30, 31. Oh, and this 31, don't miss that one. That was here. And then lastly, Jan, Feb, April, May. All right. Okay, so part 6, list processing and creation with loops and split. Okay, so now we have loops again. This is a famous poem by Ogden Nash. The cow is of the bovine ilk, one end is moo, the other milk. Okay, so first loop here, for x in s dot split. So s dot split has nothing in the parentheses here, so this is going to split at any white space character. In this example, we only have spaces for the white space characters, so this is going to split at the spaces. So s dot split is going to be a list where the first entry is the second entry is cow, is of the bovine, and then ilk with the semicolon stuck on the end will be the last entry in s dot split. Okay, so x becomes each of those words one at a time. And then we're checking if the length of that word is greater than 2. If it is, we're printing x. Okay, so we're printing out all the words with length greater than 2, basically. So the has length 3, so that one will print. Cow has length 3, so that will print. Is and of are length 2, so they're not going to print. The has length 3. Bovine has length 3, and then ilk with the semicolon on the end has length 4. Okay, so the cow, the bovine, ilk will print out. All right, the next one, it looks like we're doing the accumulator pattern because we start off with an empty list. Then once again, we're going through all the words in S one at a time, and we are appending onto M the length of that word. Okay, so M is getting appended with the length of the current word that we're looking at in the loop. All right, so what is M going to end up being? So first M is empty, and then we first append on the length of the first word. So it's going to be 3. And then the length of the next word is 3. So that gets appended next. The length of the next word is 2. So that gets appended. The length of the next word is 2. So that gets appended. The length of the next word is 3. That gets appended. This one length is 6. So that gets appended. And then lastly, this length here is 4. So that gets appended. So those are the lengths of all the words, and that is what M will be. Okay, so the next one we're doing T dot split instead of S dot split. Maybe I just want to move down this line here so I can see what it is. Okay, so just copying that line to make sure I can see what T is while I'm doing this video. Okay, so we're doing T dot split, and there's nothing in the parentheses of split, so we're going to get all the words again, one, end, and so on. So X is going to become each word one at a time. And then we're checking if the length of X is greater than 3. And if it is, we're printing out X. So very similar to what we did before, but just doing longer words this time. So now 1 is not going to print because it's only 3. End is only 3. Is 2. So moo with the comma, that is actually length 4. So that will print. And then let's see what else. Other with the comma on the end, that will print. And then lastly, milk. So moo, other milk. All right. The next one looks like we're doing accumulator pattern again. We start with an empty list. Then we're going through all the words in T.split again, and we're checking if there is an O in that word. And if there is an O in that word, then we are appending it to the list N, and then we're printing out N at the end. So N is going to be, okay, so the first value for X will be 1, and there is no lowercase o in 1. So you have to be careful here because this is a lowercase o. So that is not going to be true. So we do not append that to N. Next, X becomes end. That does not have an O in it, so it will not be appended. Is, no. Okay, moo with the comma in it is the first thing that gets appended to the list N. And I'm putting it here with the quotes because it is going to be printed out with its quotes around it because N is a list. Okay. The next thing that has an O in it is other, and other does have that comma after it as well. Okay, and then there's no more words that have an O. So this will be the only 2 entries that will be in the list, and moo, other. Okay, let's print these out, see if we did it right. So the cow, the bovine ilk is right there. This is a list of word lengths, and then we have moo other milk, and then moo other. Okay. Okay, so the next part is list comprehension. So this is where you create lists in just one big swoop. So here we were creating lists using the accumulator pattern, but down here we can do the same kind of thing, but just with like one line. Okay, so we have a list called L to give us kind of something to start with. So L is these three numbers, 70, 88, 100. All right, so the first list that we're creating with list comprehension is going to consist of entry plus 1 for entry in L. So this is going to go through every entry in L, and it's going to put entry plus 1 into our new list. Okay, so this is doing a loop where we go through the things in L, and entry is going to become each element in L one at a time. First entry will be 70, then entry will be 88, then entry will be 100. So it's a loop that runs 3 times. And then for each of those entries, we do 1 plus the entry, and then that is what is going into our new list. Okay, so the first list is going to be 71, 89, 101. The next one is extremely similar, except instead of adding 1 every time, we're just dividing by 2 every time. This will give you floats technically, so they'll come out like this. Oops, 44.0, 50.0. I think I won't take off any points if you forget about the 0.0 stuff. It's not like that big of a deal. The next one is a little bit complicated because we're not going through the entries in L. So what we're doing this time is we're going through the list 1, 2, 3, and the variable now is called I. So I is going to become 1, and then I is going to become 2, and then I is going to become 3. Okay, and each time for each value of I, the thing that we're putting into our list is the negative I index entry from L. So this is a little bit complicated. So like, just to show you what I'm talking about, like the first thing that's going to go in here is L -1, and then L -2, and then L -3. But of course, that's not how Python writes those things. I'm just kind of making some notes about what I need to put in here. So L -1 is actually the last entry in L. Okay, so this is going to be 100. And L -2 is the second to last entry in L. So remember, the negative indexes go from the back. And then -3 is the third to last entry in L. So negative indexes, again, they go from the back. -1, -2, -3. Okay, so this code actually reverses that list. It's kind of cool. It creates a reverse list. All right. The last one here. So we're back to just doing for entry in L. So entry is going to be 70, and then 88, and then 100. So what's going into our new list is the string version of the entry. So these are integers, and this is going to turn each one of them into a string. And then we're taking that string and we're adding the string containing the percent symbol. So we had to turn each entry into a string in order to do the plus with another string. So we're going to just have each number, and then we're tacking on the percent symbol to the end, and then the result is a string. So what we're going to get is the string containing 70%, and then the string containing 88%, and then the string containing 100%. Okay, we can go ahead and run this and see if we're right. Okay, the last of the code reading parts is about dictionaries. So here we start out with the dictionary. So remember, the things that are in a dictionary are called key value pairs. Each pair here on the left side of the colon is the key, and on the right side of the colon is the value. So each key has a value, each value has a key, and then the key value pairs are listed with commas between them. Okay, so keys are on the left, values are on the right. And so what you can do is you can retrieve values from the dictionary by using the key as if it were an index. So you put the name of the dictionary, you put square brackets, and then you put the key inside there, and then Python will return you the value that was associated with that key. Okay, so if I look for the value, for the key Bob in the dictionary, the value that goes with Bob is 88. So this is going to print 88. The value that goes with the key said is 92. This is going to print 92. Now this one is a little bit different. So we're not asking Python to retrieve the value associated with Ava because there is no value associated with Ava, right? What this is actually doing is this is assigning the value associated with the key Ava to be 85. So what's going to happen is we're adding a new key value pair to the dictionary. So we're going to get this new entry over here. I'll just actually put this in the comments. So this doesn't print, but D becomes. So it's got all the same entries as before, and now it's got a new entry called with the key Ava and the value 85. Okay, so that's what's happening on that one. And the next part here, for X in D, so when you loop through a dictionary, you get the keys. The thing that you're looping through is actually the keys. Okay, so X is going to become each key one at a time. So the print command here, we're actually printing two things. First, we're printing the key, and then we're going to the dictionary and we're looking up the value associated with that key. So we're printing the key and we're printing each key's value. Okay, so what's going to print out is first key is Anna. Now remember, when you print a string, it doesn't print the quotes around it, so it's just going to print Anna like that. And you might have forgotten too, but when you print things, when you put things in print with commas between them, it actually like just prints a space between them. So next is going to print 98. Okay, so that's going to print from the first time the loop runs. The next time the loop runs, you're going to get Bob 88, and then said 92, and then D 89. Okay, and the last part here for the dictionary looks like we're using accumulator pattern because we're starting with S equals 0. So this is probably a sum that we're taking. Here we are looping through the keys of the dictionary. So X will become each key one at a time. First, oh, I forgot Ava, didn't I? I'm sorry, I just realized on this last one here. I forgot. Ava is actually in the dictionary now, so we need her too. Okay. So on the last one here, we're looping through. X is going to become each key in the dictionary one at a time. First Anna, then Bob, said D, Ava. And we're adding to S, we're adding the value D of X to S. So we're going to D, the dictionary, we're looking up the key X, and we're retrieving the value associated with that key, and then we're adding that to the variable S. Okay, so the first value for X is going to be Anna, and then D bracket X will be 98. So the first thing when the loop runs is 98 gets added to S. So first 98 gets added to S, then 88 gets added, then 92 gets added, then 89 gets added, then Ava's number 85 gets added. Those are all being added up. And so this is going to be the sum. Well, let me get a calculator and actually do this. I can't add those numbers in my head. Okay, so it was 98 plus 88 plus 92 plus 89 plus 85. I'll try to make it so you don't have to add big numbers on the test. So this will be 452. So this is the sum of all the D values. All right, let's go ahead and run this and check. Yeah, so we got 88, 92, and then this was the loop where we printed out the keys and the values, and then 452. Okay, so now let's look at the actual hardest part of this review and probably on the test, which will be writing code. Okay, so there's going to be 3 or 4 questions where you have to write code on the real test. And so I gave you guys 5 to practice here. And these all are problems about this list of strings right here. And so I'll probably give you some kind of similar list of strings that looks like it came from like maybe a data file or something on the real test. Okay, so let's talk about this list of strings and what it represents. So this is the real actual CSCI sections that are being offered at SU in the spring. And each string has 4 parts and they are separated by commas. So this is the first entry in the list. It's a string that has 4 things in it, and those things are separated by commas. So the first part is either open or closed, depending on if there are seats still available in that section. So this one is closed. There's no seats left. The second part is obviously the name, or rather the mnemonic and number and section number, but I'll call that the name of the section. The third part here, the 28 in this example, is the number of students currently enrolled in the section. And then the last part here is the number of credits that the class is worth. So just to note, they're not all worth 4 credits. There are some here that are worth 2 credits. This one is worth 2, this one is worth 2. Okay, so that's what all of these strings are. And the first question here is, write a program that will loop through the strings in L and print the names of the sections that are open. So in other words, you want to just print the names and only for the sections that are open. Okay, so let me go ahead and put a code block in here to work in. And I'm going to go ahead and actually also copy this list right here, so I actually have it in my program. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to loop through the strings in L. So let's see, I'm going to go through for S in L. So just S is like a random name I picked here that I'm going to call each of these strings. So first S will be this string, then S will be this string, so on and so forth. And what do I want to do with each of those strings? Well, there's a couple of things I need to do. I need to check if the class is open, and then I need to print out, I need to somehow get just this part of the string out from the rest of the string. Okay, so first I'm going to check if it's open, and I can do that pretty easily with just if open in S. Okay, so just check if open is in that string. If it is, it'll be like this one, and so that'll be true. And now I don't want to just print out the whole string. So if I just do print S, it's not going to actually give me what I want. That's going to give me, wait a minute. Oh, I think I put the wrong solution on here. Sorry about that. The ones that are open are not, these 3 that I put here are the ones that are closed, I think. The ones that are open are the opposite of those ones. Oh, sorry about that. That's like my own mistake. But let's just keep going with the coding, the loop that does printing the names of the sections that are open, but it's not, this is the wrong 3. But anyway, my broader point was that I don't want to print out the whole string. I just want to print out this part right here. So what I need to do to break up the string into the smaller pieces is use the .split command. So I'm going to need to do s.split, s.split like this, but I'm not splitting at spaces, I'm splitting at commas. So I do need to put inside the parentheses here, I need to put a comma in quotes to tell Python to split at the commas. Otherwise, it won't do the job. And then I actually need to save the result of the split command as a new variable. So I don't know what to call this, like, I don't know, my list or something. Whatever you want to call it is fine. So once you've done that, you can then index into that list. So what you've got now, basically, if you print this out, you can see what you've actually got, is you've turned each line into a list where it's been broken up at those commas. Okay, and now you need to reach into the list and grab the index of the entry that you want, which is index 1. So you want my list index 1. Okay, and there we go. Those are the names of the courses that are open. Sorry, I put the wrong 3 here. I was thinking of the ones that were closed or something. But anyway, these are the open ones. So if you guys want to enroll in those classes, you can. So you see that there's only 4 lines of code here, but it was like somewhat challenging to actually program those 4 lines of code correctly. I won't ask you guys to like write this line of code again on the test. Obviously, that would be a bit silly. Okay, so for the second one, let me go ahead and put a code block, and I'm going to paste again the list of all the courses. So write a program that calculates the accumulator pattern to find the total number of students in all of the sections, and then the right number is 171. So basically, we need to go through all of these strings. We need to break up each string at these commas, again, just like we did before. Get out this entry right here that corresponds to the number of students, so 28, 28, 18, and so on. and then add up all of those numbers. And since we're adding up a bunch of numbers, we're going to be doing the accumulator pattern. So I guess, I don't know, whatever you want to call your accumulator variable is fine. I guess I'll call mine total. So we start total at 0. Then we're going to do a loop through the strings in the list. Okay, and then just like we did before, it's not my most creative naming moment, but we're going to split each string. And we're going to split each string at the commas. Okay, and we need to save the result of the split as a new variable. You can call it whatever you want, like T or X or new list or whatever. Just don't call it something that you've already used, like, well, I guess you could call it S again. You don't really need S after that. Whatever you want to call it is fine. Okay, so you're splitting S at the commas, and now you have a list where the first entry in the list is 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3. So the entry that we need from the list is index 2. Okay, so you need to get the index 2 entry. And then what are we doing with that index 2 entry? Well, we are adding it to the total. But you have to be a little bit careful, because when you do the split command, the things that come out of the split are strings. So you do actually need to convert this to an integer before you can add it to the total. Okay, and then you're going to do total equals total plus that. And that is it. I'm just going to go ahead and print out the total at the end here to make sure we got the right answer. Yep, 171. Okay. So again, it's only 5 lines of code, but it's kind of complicated. All right, so the next one, write a program that makes a new list whose entries are just the names of all the sections. You can use the accumulator pattern, or you can use list comprehension. I think I will use the accumulator pattern, as that one is easier to explain. So the new list should look like this. So just the names of the sections, not the entire strings. Okay, so once again, I'm going to copy this list L, and I'm going to put a new code block. Okay. All right, so I'm making a new list using accumulator pattern. That means I need to start off with an empty list. I'm just going to call it M because that's the letter that comes after L. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, so once again, what I need to do is I need to loop through all the entries in L, and I need to split each entry at the commas. So I'm going to do 4. Maybe I'll call them entries this time just to be creative. 4 entry in L, and I need to do entry.split at the commas, and then I need to save the result of the split as a new variable. I don't know what you want to call it, like line list, new list, whatever. Okay, so this line list here will become the list that I get from splitting each of these strings one by one. And then what part of that list do I want to retrieve? I want to get the name of the course. So the closed is entry 0, this is entry 1. Okay, so I had to pause the video there for a second and I kind of lost my place, but looks like we had gone through each each entry in L one at a time, and then we were splitting each entry at the commas, and we're saving the result of the split as line list. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to get out the index 1 entry from each of those line lists. Okay, and then what do we want to do with that entry? Do we want to print it? Do we want to check it for something? We are supposed to be adding it to a list. So what we're going to do is append that onto the end of our new list. I'm going to do m.append, put this on the end of m, and then when I get done here, I'm just going to print out m just to confirm that it looks the way it's supposed to look. Let's see. Yep, that's how it's supposed to look. All right, so another one that is only 5 lines, but pretty tricky. All right, the fourth one. So go ahead and put a code block, put our list in here. All right, write a program that calculates the total number of credits being taken in all the CSCI classes. For example, there are 28 students in CSCI-181 taking 4 credits each. So there are 28 times 4, 112 credits being taken in CSCI-181. And then the warning here, not all the classes are 4 credits. So the correct answer is 608. Okay, so this is pretty tricky, but we are taking a total So we're going to need to use the accumulator pattern, and I'll start off with just total equals 0, like I usually do. We are going to need to loop through all the classes again. So maybe I'll call them classes this time for class in, oh wait, I forgot class is a reserved word. Maybe for section in L. As soon as I saw it highlighted blue, I realized class was I don't know if you guys saw that, like right there, class is a reserved word. So you can't use it for a variable name. Okay, so for section in L, and let's see. So what is it that we need to do with each of these section strings? The parts that I need to get out and use are the 28, the number of students, and also the 4, so the number of credits. So I need to get both of those out of the string, and I need to actually multiply them together. So not only do I need to split the string, but I also need to grab those parts and then convert them to integers, multiply them together. Okay, so I'm going to do my split thing again. You know what we want to call the result of this, like values or something. So I'm doing section dot split. That's what I called the entries in the list this time. I called them section, and I'm splitting at the commas. Okay, and maybe I'll make some new variables to make this a little easier on my brain. So the number of students in the section is going to be the 0, 1, 2, the index 2 entry from the values list that I just made. And the number of credits is going to be the next one, so that should be the 3 index. Okay, and then, oops, that's the values. And then not only do I need to grab those from the values list, but I also need to convert those to integers so I can do math with them. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap those in integer commands. And then what I need to do next is multiply number of students times number of credits. And then what am I supposed to be doing with that result? I'm supposed to be adding it to the total. Okay, so this is going to be total equals total plus. Or you can do that, total plus equals thing is also fine. All right, and then when I get done with this, I'm going to print it out just to make sure I got the right number, which is supposed to be 608. Yep, 608. Okay, so that was the hardest one so far. Let's look at the last one. So write a program that creates a new list called M, whose entries are sublists. Okay, so we're going to use the accumulator pattern again to make a new list. So I'll go ahead and start M off as an empty list. All right, and the entries of M are going to be sublists, and we're going to have one sublist per section. Each sublist should contain the 4 entries corresponding to that section. The first 2 entries in the sublist can be strings, but the last 2 entries should be converted to integers. So for example, M should start out like this. Okay, so when you look at what we've got here, basically you have one sublist per section, and the sublist is exactly what we get when we do the split command, except the 28 and the 4, those last 2 entries, have been converted to integers. Okay, so we're going to be going through all of the strings in the list L again, and we're going to be doing the dot split command on the commas again. Okay, but this time we're not taking anything out of there. We're actually going to be appending that to M. But I think this is not going to be quite enough, right? Because if we do this, this doesn't convert these 2 numbers. So this is a little bit tricky. Maybe instead of appending it right away, what I want to do is, let's first save it as a new variable. So values equals the result of the split. Okay, so this is going to save the result of split as a new variable called values. And then what do I want to do? I want to change these last 2 entries in values to be integers. So we can update entries in lists. So the last entry would be called, or the last entry would be the index -1, or you could use index 3 for it, whichever you want to do is fine. I want to update that to be the integer version of itself. So I can do it like this. And then the second to last entry, I want to do the same thing. I want to update that to be the integer version of itself. Okay. And then now what I want to do is go ahead and append that to M. All right, and let's try printing out M once we're done to make sure we got the right answer. And yep, so I've got all these sublists, and each sublist, the first two things are strings, the last two things are integers. Okay, so that is the test review. If you have any questions, you can come to my office hours or you can send me an email. And good luck with your studying.